You guys ready?
Yep.
Ready?
You nervous?
No.
No? All right, everybody, welcome to Fairgame episode... I'm going to start that over.
Podcast, episode 1, take 2.
Welcome, everybody, to the Fairgame podcast. My name is Ben Clymer. I'll be a co-host. With me, as always, is Mr. Eric Mayville.
Nice to see you.
And, of course, the legend himself, Mr. Adam Scott.
Thank you very much, Ben.
So what is Fairgame? I'm sure many of you are wondering, and that's kind of what we're here to answer today. So Eric, from your perspective, what is Fairgame?
I think fair game is a chance for us average golfers to see what it's like to really be, on the other side, as well as kind of find a way to make the game a little bit more approachable and equitable in some manners.
Yeah. And Adam, what do you think?
Well, I think it's kind of the opportunity for me, whatever knowledge I have of the game and experience and being a fan of the game, just like you guys, to kind of branch out a little bit. I think seeing so much of it from inside the professional game, I'd like to get that out and show a little bit more about how good the game is just generally for everyone.
Yeah. And I think it's important for our listeners to understand the genesis of this project is that Eric and I have been friends for over 10 years. Adam and I for going on probably 4 or 5 years now. And without these two guys, I wouldn't be playing golf at all. Truly. I mean, I played when I was very young. I was joking with Eric earlier that I think the last man on the varsity team in Brighton High School. Shout out to Coach Principino, wherever you are. But I built a business, and over those 10 years, I really didn't play at all. That's not to say I wasn't interested or that I didn't love it, but without a community around to really encourage me to play, it's really a difficult sport or game to get into. And then, when I had a little bit more free time and I reconnected with Eric and then connected with Adam, I realized that this game is amazing. And this game can really open up a lot of doors for you from a health perspective, from a mental health perspective, as well as a social perspective.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And it's I took a little break myself. And, again, right around when we met was when I was getting back into it. Being based in New York City is a little tough to get out and play some golf. But any chance we get it definitely makes me feel better that week. It feels like I've accomplished something, even if I didn't break 90 or 80. But we'll get better at that part.
Yeah, for sure. And I think today, we have the distinct pleasure of being here with Adam Scott, a multi-event winner on the PGA Tour and elsewhere. And I think what is so kind of interesting about what we hope to do here is that we're actually here 2 weeks before the 2021 Masters. Mm-hmm. We're in Southern Florida right now with Adam and his coach, Brad, to really understand how somebody like Adam, who has in fact won the Masters in 2013, thinks about it and prepares for an event like this, which is obviously, a pinnacle of the golf season. But even beyond that, I mean, this is arguably the most well-known, most important golf event of the world. It's one that really touches outside the world of golf.
Yeah, I think so. It's got a huge reach, the Masters. I knew that before I'd won it, but then after winning it really changes things. It does. It's incredible what they've managed to cultivate there in Augusta National. And the Masters is a special thing, and you're kind of catching me right at the beginning. I mean, I've been thinking about the Masters for months, don't get me wrong, but this is where I've just played my last event before I'll play the Masters, and you're catching me right at the beginning of 2 weeks of preparation. So it's really early stages, but I think this is going to be a fun few episodes to kind of document my process in getting through this tournament. And fingers crossed, hopefully it all works out really well and we're talking at the end in a green jacket. But if it doesn't, it'll be fun anyway, and it's a learning experience. And that's what I've also enjoyed with you guys the last couple years, is understanding your experiences of the game of golf. I see it from a professional side a lot, but also seeing what you guys get out of it. And I think that's what we're all going to be trying to do here, is kind of promote that a little bit and get some people interested.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. Is that the end goal here is really just generate more interest in a game that I think we all love, and I think has really proven to be a really valuable outlet for all of us. In some cases from a professional level, and in other cases from a kind of consumer recreational level. So before we get into preparing for the Masters, as we've mentioned, you reached, I would say the pinnacle of professional golf in 2013 when you won the Masters. And it seems like a very basic question, but it's one that I have to ask. What was it like winning the Masters?
Yeah, it's dream come true kind of thing. as a kid, the Masters was really the only golf tournament I remember as a little kid in Australia. It's a big deal down there. And we had Greg Norman, the number one golfer in the world for so many years, especially in my childhood, was very influential. And I remember getting to stay home Monday morning as the Masters finished over here on a Sunday from school as Greg tried to win the 1987 Masters and he lost in a playoff. And everyone in Australia was heartbroken. So long-time memories of the Masters, and to actually end up being the first Australian to win is really, it's quite incredible. It's probably, no matter what I do for the rest of my career, if I win it again or if I win another major, I'm going to be the first Australian who won the Masters. So it's very special for me, for sure.
Yeah. And did winning the Masters mean more to you as a golfer or as an Australian?
Good question. Yeah, I think, it's very, it could be more as an Australian, actually. Was that big a deal. I mean, we're a strong sporting country down there, and we have some great sporting heroes.
Sure.
And to kind of put myself in a discussion of that as that guy who finally got it done for Australia is something pretty special to me. I mean, obviously I'm a proud Australian, and that's a nice little thing to have next to my name.
I would say.
Did you bring some Australia to your Champions Dinner?
Yeah, it was super Australian themed. That was a fun deal. I brought in some beef from Australia, some Moreton Bay bugs, which is a bit like crayfish, to put on top of them. And what else? Brought some good Australian wine, which the wine buffs around the Champions table was very happy with me about. So it was a fun night. It's a special night. Strong memories of that. But that's why the Masters is special. They do this every year in every little detail for everybody who gets to go or even watch on television. I mean, the only downside of playing the Masters is you don't get to watch it on TV. It's such a good, it's so appealing to watch those golf holes and iconic shots. And, Nicklaus was hitting from here and he had a great shot. And then Faldo was hitting from here and Tiger did this. And, it's so easy to remember because they go there every year.
So the Champions Dinner is relatively well known, but for those who might not know it, what is the tradition with the Champions Dinner?
Yeah, so quite a while ago, Ben Hogan started the Masters Club, which is the champions, and they had a dinner, just the champions and the chairman of the golf club. I don't know if it's always been on Tuesday night, but it is on Tuesday night now. And it's a room of roughly about 32, 34 of us, depending who comes and doesn't. But Doug Ford was coming. He was 94, I think, last time he came. So, it's something special for every champion. And to sit in a room like that, certainly one of the most nervous or talks I'd given is standing up and addressing that room and looking down the line of Jack Nicklaus and Tom Watson, Gary Player, Tiger, everyone being there. But what a special evening as a golfer to sit there and be able to experience that. It is such a great night.
Bubba put your jacket on, right?
Bubba, and then I put it back on him the next year, and I said, let's keep this going, and it hasn't kept going.
Go back and forth a little bit?
Yeah, the back and forth would have been good, but it hasn't quite happened.
Did you get a little bond at all? Did you know him before the green jacket transfer?
I knew him before, but there is definitely, it's a little bit of a fraternity,
Sure.
There's something special we share. There's no doubt, from the dinner to, this time of year, the last couple of weeks, and you see another champion and you're looking forward to seeing you Tuesday night. Yeah. It's coming, and it really does mean so much. I think you go back to last November when Dustin won and the guy couldn't talk in his interview afterwards. And here's one of the coolest cats out there.
He's stone cold.
He is stone cold, and you're never really sure what he's feeling, but there was no way of hiding it there. It meant so much to him to win the Masters, and it was great to see, honestly. I mean, it was endearing to me that, here's the coolest cat out there who makes it all look so easy and cruises to wins all the time, but this one was very special.
Yeah, as a spectator, it really felt like, okay, this is a special moment for him, and it felt good for the golf community to see Dustin win that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is super talented and he does make it look easy, but he puts in a lot of work.
Right.
And, and to reach the pinnacle, in a sense, like you said, you can see that was a special win for him. And it's nice to see. And I'm sure the person who wins this year is going to have that feeling too.
Yeah, and I think that that's a perfect kind of segue into what we hope these 5 episodes will be about, which is how you kind of figure out a way to, I'll use air quotes here, peak at the right time for a major. I mean, I assume you prepare really differently for a tournament like this or the U.S. Open or something like that than you would for your standard, your weekend tournament.
Definitely more goes into it. Look, I'm taking a couple of weeks off to really give myself the time I need to peak. And peaking is difficult in golf. There's too many variables. I mean, it's very hard. I mean, Tiger did the best job of it lately, and he must have played 100 majors and he won 15 of them. I've played like 80 majors and won one. Right. It's not easy to win a major. It's not easy to win a golf tournament, but you can give yourself the best chance. And, so my way of doing that is to prepare really thoroughly. And that hopefully gives me the confidence and then the ability to execute when I get to Augusta. So you've kind of caught me like really day 1, day 2 of preparing. I did a little range session yesterday with Brad. And we did a little range session today, which we might be able to share on this cast. And, it's early days, but you need that time to build up the repetition, to build up the confidence. Brad and I have been talking a lot about, my mindset now. I've got to prepare my mind the next couple of weeks going into this so that, I know how I'm going to pick apart the golf course and I know what shots I'm going to hit. So let's start practicing those shots and give ourselves the time to really prepare and not just go in there and wing it and see if I've got it on Thursday through Sunday or not.
Right.
A lot of us play, I think, 2, maybe 3 courses regularly. This is the only major on the same course every year. Do they do enough changes to the course that it feels different each year, or are you kind of coming into it knowing what to expect?
You know what to expect. I mean, I've played now maybe this might be my 20th Masters. I'm 19th or 20th. And there have been some changes over that time, but they're not trying to fool us. They're not trying to trick us or do anything like that. Their changes are very subtle. It's an iconic golf course. They're not going to just completely rebuild it every time. But you know what to expect. You know what the challenges are. So you should be able to prepare pretty well. And I think, for me at this point in my career, I've got to use that knowledge to my advantage over some of the guys who've only been there once, twice, or 3 times, who are actually some of the favorites, probably for the tournament. These young guys playing so good now. Right. But I've got to draw on that experience.
Right, and of course Augusta is one of, if not the, I would say most exclusive clubs in the world, and that, I would imagine even pros can't just show up there and say, hey, I'm here, can I play?
That's right. It's a pretty exclusive membership, and it's part and parcel of its, its enigma that is Augusta National Golf Club, which is a cool thing. But, they're very good. Once you qualify for the tournament, they're very hospitable to the pros. I mean, if you want to go up there early and practice and get some rounds in, yep, absolutely. They'll accommodate and let you do that. I know some guys have shipped up there and played, 30 and 40 rounds in the months before, but hasn't necessarily led to a win, so which I think they're happy with, because otherwise everyone would be up there for the first 3 months of the year. But there is something to some course knowledge and feeling comfortable. It's intimidating golf course. Sure. And for the first 10 years of my career, I had beginner's luck and finished 9th in my first start, and then didn't have any really great performances for another 9 years, and I just started to learn and think about where all the trouble was for that time, and I had to get over that to start having some better performances.
Mm-hmm. And there are only 2 sets of tees at Augusta. Is that accurate?
That's right. It's pretty unique. I mean, there aren't many clubs with only 2 sets of tees. So there's the members' tees and the tournament tees.
Okay.
And it's long off both, actually.
How big of a gap is there? Do you know?
It stretches out pretty long now. Like the first hole must be 70 yards, and that sounds long, but I'll still challenge you guys to tell me it's not long off the members' tees. it's a stretch. I mean, I've been lucky since I've won there. I've been able to take my mum and dad to play, and they're good players, but certainly not long by any standards. And it's a long slog around there for them.
Sure.
Of course, they enjoyed it very much. It's a fantastic experience, but it's a long golf course no matter where you're playing from.
Right, and Augusta also, just a little interesting factor, it also doesn't have a slope or rating, right? They don't prescribe to the same sort of USGA ratings, I believe.
Okay, I don't know. They
didn't know
don't.
that either.
They're not.
We should fact check that, by the way.
Yeah, they're not rating us on the tournament. But I could imagine that'd be something that Augusta National would.
Sounds like
do.
something they might do.
Yeah, they do. They have some unique ways about them that sets them apart.
Yeah.
In terms of the timing this year, now that we're back to the regular scheduled April, was there a pretty big difference between April and November?
There was, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it was remarkable. They put the event on in November, really. I mean, if anyone could have said, we're not going to host a tournament this year, I felt like it could have been them. But they're very aware of the enjoyment and the fun that people have watching this event. So even in not ideal circumstances and conditions, they put an event on, and I think everyone's happy for it. That they got to watch some Masters last November.
And I think, now that we're here 2 weeks and 1 day, I think, away from tee off, how does your mental game change versus, let's say, a normal, I won't name names, but a normal tournament, a non-major?
Look, I'll say, I mean, there is a change for sure, because the first tee shot Thursday at the Masters is the most nervous I am all year. Right. Even coming down the stretch, if I'm coming down the 72nd hole at the Masters and it's all on the line, I think I would have been more nervous on the first tee. I think the adrenaline's flowing down the 72nd hole, but I've been out there playing for 4 days and kind of have myself under control, and I've been playing well, so the confidence is good. But you're teeing there and you're expecting a good week, you want a good week, you're trying to slow your thoughts down. So there's a lot of preparation. Like I mentioned before, the next 2 weeks buys me that time to really prepare physically, but also mentally, to kind of walk out there, be able to gather my thoughts, fall back on, I've done all the work I need to do, I've done the prep, and a lot of athletes, at least, get all their confidence in preparation. Right. And I think this preparation of a couple of weeks' work is proven in the past to yield some good results for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, I was starting to think that 2 weeks actually didn't sound like that much. And then I realized that actually you're preparing for it every single day when you're playing. And like it is a different course, certainly, and a different mindset, and that it's a major, but you're taking the fundamentals that you built over your lifetime in playing golf and just applying it to Augusta.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I've played 4 of the last 5 weeks on the PGA Tour and had average results. I mean, of course, I want to win all the time, and that's great. But, I'm building to peak for this week, and things were looking better last week. But I've been thinking about Augusta all year and not panicking. And, I know I'm going to have this time to really put myself in a good spot. And, the reason I don't like to play certainly the week before a major is then I'm on someone else's schedule for the week. So if I need to do something but I have a tee time or there's a rain delay, I'm not even playing golf, right. You're just on some other schedule, and I want to kind of control as many of those variables as I can.
I think we were talking a little earlier on the range about what you kind of plan for in terms of your shots. Like, can you talk a little bit about your strategy for attacking Augusta this year?
Yeah, I think, there's certainly been a big push on distance. Look, that's what everyone's talking about in golf at the moment, and people going for it. And the tour guys, and certainly Bryson and Rory and Dustin, going to tear Augusta apart because of the length. And November was a good little test run. It didn't really look like that to me, even though Dustin won, but he's long. But he's like the most efficient driver, and I think driving is such a helpful thing around there. You don't have to be the longest, but if you can get it in play a lot, you can create a lot of opportunities. So, only a couple of days in, thinking about it, there's going to be some focus on building a driver game that's pretty reliable this year. I mean, if I was critical of myself last November, it was a little loose off the tee. I mean, I was not down enough fairways, and that made it hard work. You're scrambling a lot more, and there's pressure, and your short game, unless you're Phil Mickelson, only holds up so long, and that's not the way I want to approach it. So, kind of modifying my game plan a little bit this year, maybe not attack as hard on so many holes. Got to take advantage of the par fives. I mean, this is stuff that people have been talking about for years, but you kind of have to put it all together, and you have to be very clear and not get up on the 13th tee and go, oh, the wind's really good for me to hit driver over the corner of the trees and hit an 8-iron in, and be disciplined and hit a 3-wood and then a 4-iron in or something like that, and stick to your game plan. So, you got to keep going over it in the head. And for me, it's just like having that clarity and calmness to the way I approach it and play, and hopefully keep working on that for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about golf is that it's one of the only sports where we can participate as total nobodies, effectively, with the professional athlete. We played golf together, or at least you played golf and we played something that looks a little bit like golf. And I think what's so interesting is that it's amazing that, I get frustrated with my own game when I can't putt or chip or whatever. I know Eric does as well. And, you being out there as an elite athlete, you have the same frustrations with yourself, and it really never goes away.
No, I think unless you make 18 birdies as a pro, I'm not sure. Like, there's always something you could do better. Right. Like, I don't know if the perfect round's ever been played. Of course, there are so many great rounds, and you've had a great round, and you've had a great round, and you're happy with. And then that's the benchmark. And it's like, unless I'm doing that every day, I'm going to get frustrated. And it's hard not to if you have any kind of competitiveness in you at all. Then that's what it is. But when you spend so much time and energy on it and you're not executing, it is frustrating. When you think you're doing all the right things, and of course, then with a bad performance, you have to analyze. And, that's taught me to be incredibly honest with myself. I mean, you can only blame other people so long, and then you have to reassess things. But like I was saying, I think with the experience now, it's easier for me to analyze things, and hopefully I shouldn't get so frustrated. And as far as when I play with amateurs, which I do a lot, is, you've got to lower the expectation. And I know a lot of pros who lower the expectation before they say go to the Masters, and just kind of talk themselves down. Right. To just free them up, to just like take all the pressure off themselves. The media takes the pressure off them. He's not got a chance. And then all of a sudden, there he is right in contention. And I think it's not a bad thing for guys like yourself to kind of bring it down. Like, I haven't played in 2 weeks. Well, what should you expect? Are you going to shoot the best round? Well, I think you can, but don't expect it. And having that kind of lightness almost to play golf in the head, like it's light, and a bad shot, you just dust it off. I mean, I think Dustin does the best job of that out there. What bad shot, he gets up and finds it and hits it up and moves on. And it's like he's got a real lightness in his head and just gets on with it. And I think that's a nice thing I try and promote, at least I would to you guys and anyone else out there who's beating themselves up over golf when they play once a week.
Yeah. And does that mental levity kind of come with age? Not insinuating that you're old by any means, but with experience. Or I mean, when you were 25 and 30 on tour and really hunting, I mean, did it feel different to you then than it does now?
I've always been fairly calm out there, I'd say. But yeah, no, I think with the experience, it's more calm. There's less panic. I don't panic as much on the golf course now. I think I've addressed, through some brutal honesty with myself and picking apart all my own flaws, sure. I have addressed those things that would send me into a panic, and I just have a way around it now. And if I feel it going down that path, I have ways to get myself out of that place. I mean, you're pretty much stuck out there on your own in a tournament, nowhere to hide when it's going wrong. Yeah. It's like, unless you want to walk off the golf course, you're out there and you're going to post a pretty bad number. Yeah. So, and I think pride then kicks in, and it's like, okay, you got to dig this out of the dirt here a little bit and do the best you can and not embarrass yourself. So, identifying those things as your game progresses probably gets easier when if you looked back over my scores when I was a younger pro, I mean, you'll see some pretty average ones where I didn't have control of these things.
Right. And do you have, kind of memories of scores or rounds that you just thought were so wonderful, and then some that were just the most frustrating rounds ever?
I pretty much forget, it's a short memory for the bad stuff. Right. I'm nearly perfect in my own mind. So short memory of the bad rounds, which is a good thing. I mean, you analyze what went wrong, and then you've got to, discard completely. And yeah, of course, I remember the good rounds. Which one do you want to hear about?
What is your favorite round you've ever played in a professional tournament?
I think the best round I've ever played in a professional tournament, there are a couple, but overall in 2006, I shot 62 on Friday morning at Muirfield Village Golf Club at Jack's tournament. And it was long rough, and the bunkers were deepened that year. And I think I was low man by 5 that day. It was a 67, which is a good score, but I played incredible, and I had a bogey on the 16th hole. And it was just an amazing round of golf. And the funniest thing was, on the range that morning, we teed off pretty early, probably just before 8 a.m. Yeah. I could almost not get a ball in the air. Like, it was just terrible striking. I remember hitting these 5 irons thin, off the bottom groove, no flight. I was getting flustered. And I don't think I knew that I was doing it, but basically I gave up on the range, and the expectation was just gone. And I just didn't expect anything that day. And I went out there and somehow made a couple pars early, and then hit a good shot on the 3rd, and then a good one on the 4th, and the putt went in, and, and this started happening. But yeah, so that's 15 years ago, and I remember it pretty clearly, of course.
Yeah. That was a good day.
It was a great round. I mean, it wasn't necessarily the most meaningful round of my career, but I think it was for sure an incredible round on a really difficult golf course.
And is that how you try to view rounds now, where you kind of clear your head and don't try to think about too much outside of the world of golf? Yeah,
the outcome is you've just got to let some things happen. I think, as I think about Augusta now, I'm thinking about taking advantage of the par 5s. And in my head, I'm seeing, how can I not birdie all 4 every day? And of course, that doesn't happen very often.
Sure.
But you've got to get yourself to that place and then just let the round come to you. And Augusta is a course that can really do that too, as a pro. If you go forcing it around there, one mistake is so costly, a double bogey. And then you're on the back foot, and then you have to have something good happen. Whereas if you can be just a little bit patient and keep executing, Augusta gives you a lot if you let it. And certainly I'm going to start with that approach that week and try not to get on the back foot.
Does Augusta translate similar to, when we're watching tournaments, everybody says Saturday's moving day. So what does that mean for a professional golfer like yourself on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday?
That means if you're not leading, you better get going. Yeah. I mean, it is. You can get yourself back in a tournament on Saturday. If you're too far behind Sunday, it's pretty hard to come back from 10 back on Sunday, let's face it. But if you just make the cut at Augusta, usually you're probably within 10 shots, and I don't think that's unrealistic to think something great can happen. And like I said, Augusta can give you some good stuff. There are eagles out there. You hear the roars, 15 and 13 and 14. They sometimes put the pin where I remember Mickelson holding a second shot there few years ago, and amazing things can happen out there if it does. You're never out of it.
Yeah.
So as you think about the 2 weeks before the Masters, and you see guys like Bryson, who just won again recently, and some of these other guys, Rory even, who to me is a very kind of traditional player, really focusing on length to an extreme degree. Is that enticing to you? Does that feel like something you want to kind of dally with, or not really?
It's something that you take notice of. I mean, it's my profession. You've got to be up to speed in everything that's going on. But a little bit that distance game feels like a young man's game, and I'm really not fitting in that category anymore. But fortunately for me, I've had speed in my career, and I still hit it far enough, I think, to be competitive. But we're not just driving the golf ball, and to Bryson's credit, he's done an incredible job of rounding his whole game with this distance, probably better than any tour pro ever has before. Right. So he's getting a lot of guys to take notice. And, Rory's obviously incredibly long too. And we're talking about, favorites here for the Masters as well. And there's a bunch of guys you can throw in that pot, but it's going to be more than just hitting it long. That's for sure.
And I think, to Bryson's credit, I think there was a lot of kind of, negativity around, oh, he's just a brute and all that. But winning the U.S. Open at Winged Foot takes a lot more than just hitting the ball far. Otherwise, all the long drive champions would be winning at Winged Foot.
Yeah, exactly. No, look, this guy has worked on every area of his game, figured a lot of things out. He's done it in a very different way than most traditional golf pros or golfers would do. And, that's absolutely fine. We can't overlook his putting performance. Let's get down to it. You're going to have to get the ball in the hole, and his putting the last year or two has been outstanding. So you complement that with some other areas that he's addressed, and he's a dominant force for sure.
And when you look at, you were obviously a very close witness to the change that the game of golf went through when Tiger really was dominant in those early years. And, the Tiger proofing and pushing the tee boxes back, et cetera. Do you feel that we're on the cusp of that again because of guys like Bryson, or was it just different times?
I really hope not, is what my answer is.
Sure.
It is. That was different times. It's unfair to kind of compare anyone golf-wise or even, the feeling to Tiger. He was a phenomenon. He came along and he changed the direction of golf completely, which was fantastic. And it was amazing to be kind of an up-close witness to all of that, although he kind of beat me solid for 12 straight years before I could get myself together to even think about competing with him. But, I hope it doesn't go down that path. I hope we've learned some lessons, over, for sure, some of the errors that we've made in the game through trying to Tiger-proof a golf course for one guy, in case he ever rolls around to play or any of those other things that, there's been lots of talk, and certainly a lot of it is focused around distance these days, and there's a lot of rules talk and things like that. We've never had so many rules changes in the last 5 years. So hopefully, we settle down and make this really a game that is very welcoming to everybody, not confusing, and kind of break some of that stigma of the traditional game of golf going forward.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about that earlier with just lowering our expectations, but really it's increasing our ability to enjoy being out there, I think. And I think that's what's been most interesting over the past year with COVID pushing everyone outside, watching folks kind of come out, maybe hadn't been playing as much, really finding a way to enjoy the game, might be playing in different formats or trying to meet more people. And I think there's a really big opportunity to continue to grow the game that way.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. And I think, we're seeing such an increased interest in the game of golf. The Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, all these major newspapers talking about golf being cool, in a real way. And a lot of it is centered around these great brands like Malvin and these fashion-focused brands. But I think, that aside, and those are adding to the conversation for sure, it's just an increased interest from, normal people. And by normal people, I mean guys that come from middle-class families or lower, lower-income families, and they just like the game for the game. And it's not about joining, prestigious, top 10 in the world country club. It's not about, playing golf with your boss, which is kind of an old adage that I think, I've never played golf with my boss ever. I don't know if people still do that. I guess they probably do somewhere.
Aren't you the boss?
Yeah, that's plenty of
that's right. Okay, that's true. But, it's one of those things where it really feels like golf right now has momentum, and it feels like, okay, like golf is really doing okay right now. What do you think?
I think so. Look, it's a bit of a silver lining off the whole pandemic for the game of golf is piqued interest. And, as I sit here with you guys and seen Ben's interest peak over the last couple of years, it really got us thinking. And now, we need the things to keep that interest and, certainly nurture those kind of grassroots to just get people out there to have some fun and play. And there's lots of different ways to do that. And I know there's simulator golf and there's top golf and all these things. And I think they're all really fun. A big thing for me is, as I think back about me being a kid, and even for kids getting into it, is like par 3 golf. That got me really to like golf, I guess, because I played on these really short courses. It felt like I was playing golf like the people I watched on TV, and it was like relatable then. And, so there's many different ways to do it. I just think we've got to have the organizations, making it accessible enough. In Australia, oddly enough, golf's very accessible and quite easy for people to get out there. Some more challenges with that over here in the States, just by sheer numbers. To be honest, you've got so many people, and you can't just have that many golf courses like we do in Australia. But we've got to find ways to do this going forward. And I think off the back of this pandemic and the boost the industry is getting out of it, I hope they can address that. And that's kind of what we're trying to stir up a little bit too.
Yeah, it really feels like golf is having a moment. I hate to use that term, but I mean, it really feels like, okay, like people are interested in this in an earnest way. Not in a way, again, where you just want to impress your boss off the tee or something like that. But, you really want to, it really feels like golf is good right now.
Agreed.
Absolutely. I think we've got to keep that going. And it's fun for me to see, it's a passion for me as much as it's my profession. I love golf. I love talking about it. I'm like keeping up to speed on all these things. And certainly as I get like later into my career here, I'm thinking about, okay, what can I do to help the game that's given me so much? I've traveled the world off golf. I've experienced everything because of the game of golf. I'm thinking about that going forward and hopefully have a positive influence as well.
We will be back tomorrow with episode 2, which is actually going to take you guys inside the rope, so to speak, of Adam actually on the range with his coach, Brad. And Brad has been Adam's coach for over a decade now. Was with him when he won the Masters, a good friend. And I think it'll be really interesting for you guys to hear, to really see how these guys work through things together on the range. There's a lot of nuance there that you probably wouldn't really think of. So excited to see you guys this time tomorrow.